suppose we should probably mention this other film. I suppose
I would rather talk about it. I like From Dusk Till Dawn, but I also kind of feel like
enough has been said.
But yeah, everyone knows the trick to that movie now.
Yeah.
Everyone knows like it starts off as a Tarantino crime caper, and then it transitions to a vampire movie. Not quite halfway, a little bit before halfway, and then it becomes a bloodbath and a lot of fun.
Yes.
And I think it's appropriately it's held in appropriate esteem.
Yeah.
It's not a secret Tarantino gem, but it's a sign of a good relationship between Tarantino and Rodriguez, maybe better explored during Grindhouse.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, no, well said. So if it weren't for Sinners, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fine.
It's fine.
If you want a good 90s B-movie fun and you haven't seen it, by all means. It is, I guess, a bit of a semi-spoiler with Sinners because I'll just quickly mention how I went into Sinners.
Yeah.
I heard some rumblings online. You said something like maybe your film of the year. I can't remember. You said something like that.
Yeah,
You said something very positively about it. And then I saw that it was making some pretty serious coin.
Yeah.
And that it was an MA rated by Australian standards horror.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I knew.
Yep.
I didn't know who directed it. I didn't know. I was like, great, that'll do. Yep. That'll do. I'll just have a crack at this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm really pleased that I went in knowing nothing. So a minor spoiler, but would have probably annoyed me had I known. If someone said, yeah, Dusk Till Dawn reference, I probably would have gone, oh. So I like the fact that I was kind of blindsided by what this film was. That actually added to the joy of it. And it does that. It does the genre sudden gear shift.
It does.
It's stark.
It is. I think it's done better in this than it is in From Dusk Till Dawn. I think
it was done intentionally for a start from the beginning.
Well, that's it. It's telegraphed very early on, but also there's no confusion about it. It's kind of it's kind of you're clued into it through some lines of dialogue that you're like, once you know, you know. But then this movie is so dense but so polished, whereas From Dusk Till Dawn's not. It's a big hairy monster. This is like a
finely crafted.
Yeah, it is. This is a complex movie with lots of moving parts, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I think before we hit, we can't talk about this without going heavy spoilers.
Yeah, it's any conversation we have without spoilers will be pretty superficial, and the movie probably deserves better than that.
Correct. So this is the last non-spoiler comments. It's great. Go see it. If you just enjoy seeing well-made films, you should watch this.
I think you could almost do this, and at the risk of sounding a little bit pompous, it's a good adult movie that is not part of a franchise, and that's pretty rare.
And that's something I do want to talk about because the director is linked to franchises.
Oh, so. This is that's kind of what got me excited about this. Like, here's movies like this that don't come from a Scorsese or a Christopher Nolan, where it's a big budget adult movie for adults that is very well made. They're so rare, and I think it signifies that Ryan Coogler is a name to keep track of now. Like Jordan Peele and Denis Villeneuve in the last few years, this crop of kind of new post Spielberg directors who are capable of producing very good blockbusters. It's rare. It happens every couple of years.
Yeah, and the fact that we have several of them around at the moment, and I like when directors dabble in franchises and also do their own thing.
Yeah,
because I like to see their own voices. Like you see this in various times. I mean, well, if you go back to the 70s and such, they were creating those properties. But even then, you look at someone like Sam Raimi or Peter Jackson, where they got into Spider-Man and Lord of the Rings, and it was really nice to see that. And that was back before these kinds of movies were just churned out.
Yeah.
So there was a real sense of identity. It's like, yes, there's some light horror elements in Spider-Man too, because Sam Raimi used to be a horror director.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to do anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what's really interesting to me, and I don't want them to be wasted on just doing franchise films. So I love the fact that we've got people who can go make a couple of Dune movies and then, and also Blade Runner, but also do their own thing.
Yeah.
So we're living in really interesting times.
And it is interesting times, but it's also like it's kind of a little bit daunting, scary. Movies like the success of Sinners is not a foregone conclusion. It came out of nowhere. Like not many people. I was excited about it based on the trailer I saw, and knowing Ryan Coogler, like my first experience with him was Creed.
Right.
I haven't seen Fruitvale Station, which I think is his first big movie and first collaboration with Michael B. Jordan. But there is a sequence in Creed which I still adore to this day. The one-shot fight.
Right.
And it's a boxing bout between Donnie and his opponent at that point, and it is just filmed on shoulder-mounted camera, moving around the fight. And it is just such a demonstration of confidence as a filmmaker. It is stunning to watch. He then followed up with Black Panther, which a Marvel movie that gets nominated for Best Picture is like, that is never going to happen again.
That was a very, very significant picture, and that still feels like an understatement. As in, not just a significant superhero film, that was an important...
That's probably the high watermark in terms of like, maybe Endgame is the box office champion of the Marvel universe. They're probably never going to reach those heights again. But in terms of artistic impact, Black Panther's probably the best they're going to do.
And social impact. Too.
And social impact. Yeah, it was a movement. It was
all the stars aligned, and not in a cynical way, like let's exploit this. Well, I mean, they were, of course, but there was some authenticity to it.
Yeah,
and it was like, the timing was right. We need this right now.
Yeah, it was the right movie at the right time.
Yeah.
But then, the name Ryan Coogler, freed from the shackles of doing Marvel stuff, and then this movie it was a horror movie, and horror is my jam. And particularly
you're talking my language.
A smart horror movie,
and a $90 million budget.
Yeah,
are you insane? I mean, obviously it paid off, but I'm going, even with his credentials, I'm still going, how did this get made?
Yeah, and I think I saw the preview for Sinners when I went to see Mickey 17, and Mickey 17. I don't know whether we need to give spoiler warning for Mickey 17. It's not good.
Oh,
but
really?
The overlap between the two, dual performances from the lead actor, a director coming off a couple of very well recognized projects. This movie looked special. It had the air of, this is a passion project. Yeah,
and what I really like your reference to his previous work. I was going to mention that too, but the concept of one for you, one for me is not as common as it used to be. I mean, Connery did Diamonds Are Forever, so he could do a movie that ultimately tanked. But the point is that was common, and it seems to be less common now. And it's like he had to really build up. Like he had to launch this Creed franchise.
Yeah,
Black Panther, massive.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now we'll give you one of these. Like he really had to earn it, but it definitely feels like that in principle, at least.
Yeah, he had to come back there's a Black Panther sequel in between Black Panther and this. And I think that was tough for him to do because of the death of Chadwick. Sorry, I shouldn't just refer to him as, I'm not friend, Chadwick Boseman.
Yes.
Which is, that's tragic. And apparently that was a very difficult shoot, and he does well in that movie, but it's no Black Panther. It's a B-tier Marvel movie. And I think this is kind of him declaring his intentions to be more than that. And
a really interesting fact I heard last night, I just want to mention tangentially for a moment, a little shout out to another podcast because they need the help. They've only got a few 100,000 people who listen to them. So I'll do all the help
Let's lift them up.
Yeah. Let's help. A YouTube channel called Second Wind, which stems from an old company called The Escapist.
The Escapist,
that collapsed, and The Escapist is still going in some form, but Second Wind was basically the creative team.
Because Yahtzee left Escapist, and
and their editor-in-chief was sacked, and therefore Yahtzee and others said, well, see you later.
Yeah.
And they created this new team. Their team stayed together to create this new site. And just want to mention them, I think they're fantastic. I don't get into the gaming stuff as much, but they do a lot of movie talks.
Yep.
And a special mention to their resident movie man, Darren Mooney, who is legitimately interesting. He does the backdrop is his, I think, weekly video essay. So he won't just go, here's a movie, here's what I think. He'll say, and here's some business context. Like he knows the history of things, but he focuses on here's a new show and it went to streaming rather than cinemas or something, and let's talk about why.
Yeah.
I like the context stuff.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
I do more historical context, obviously, but he really talks about what's happening in the business, and he'll pump out a good 10-minute video on the latest Star Wars thing. But anyway, just a quick mention. But they were talking about this. I listened to this only last night. In fact, I wanted to see if they had anything interesting to say, and their thoughts on the film haven't impacted me at all. But here's some background stuff. Yeah. Ryan Coogler he doesn't own these films like Creed and so on. With Sinners, the rights will revert to him after 25 years.
Yeah, I did hear that, which is phenomenal.
It's not an unheard of deal, but it is very unusual.
Yeah.
That's a man saying this is important.
Yeah.
And does that mean he's going to pump out 25 sequels? No, but it does mean this is something I want. This is something for, I suppose, him, his family, next generation. Yeah. So you don't do that unless you really care.
Yeah.
That's very telling.
And I think that there is that level of care and interest and passion is like, that is this movie all over. This movie has a real point to make.
It certainly does. I think we should really dive into the
please.
film proper. Very, very quick plot overview. And then I did mention to you, I've got a couple of issues with this film. So it'd be interesting to see if you've noticed or if you feel differently about
I've got one kind of niggle with it. I don't know what to do about that. I don't know if you can resolve it any better than it's just something that I found jarring.
Yeah. So, yes, my stuff might be slightly in that category too, but basically we have 1930s South, as in southern parts of the United States.
Yeah, like plantation country.
Yeah, so you've got the North-South divide, you've got the KKK in the background. No, the Klan's definitely not there anymore. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
You've got some African-American people in this context. So slavery's gone, but...
they're still living under Jim Crow and in like the Reformation states, which,
Yeah, so they're downtrodden people is the idea. Yeah. And we have these two brothers that return.
The Smokestack Twins.
Such
a cool name.
I know. I just love this, the 20s, 30s gangster prohibition style feel.
Yeah.
This isn't a film about prohibition, but it's got that feel.
It does.
They're doing their own thing against what's supposed to happen. You got two brothers that turn up with money.
Yeah.
Two black men with money? What's going on here? They buy property. They want to open up their own juke joint. They want to open up their own...
Yeah.
I guess you call it like a live music nightclub today or something.
Yeah.
And they've got the money to do it.
And they've got beer and whiskey.
Yes.
Yeah.
And gee, where do they get all this money? Which is in the background. It's not a big deal, but it does inform the characters.
Yeah.
It's all flavour. And for the first 45 minutes, I was timing.
Yeah.
I was annoying the audience by taking my phone out
to
check.
And clucking your tongue. I need to get a move on, boys. Come on.
All three people in the cinema were most upset.
Yeah.
So I did see this relatively late at a smaller cinema, which I actually kind of prefer. Although when the music kicked off, we do need to talk about the music. When the music kicked off, I was thinking actually a bigger cinema would have been good.
That is the scene. So we will talk about that scene, but that is the scene where I gripped my armrest and I was like, this movie is special.
That scene changes everything. We'll get to that real soon. So for 45 minutes, it's a movie about basically two formerly struggling men and setting up a business. Basically, in this context.
It's got the pace of a coming home story.
Yes, and deep characterization, a real sense of history, excellent acting.
The movie takes place entirely over one day and one night, with a little bit of dawn the next day. Mm-hmm. But it is very character driven at that point. There's lots of dialogue. It's so cool and it's so well done. And there's beautiful shots of crossing Main Street and coming back, all done in a single take. It's so confident and so luxurious in the way it's depicted.
It's beautifully, beautifully done. Yeah, I was noticing those shots, but not in a taking me out of that.
No,
moment.
It's not.
I'm noticing and enjoying the craft.
It's not a David Fincher going through the coffee mug handle shot. It's like it's just done. Like if you're a nerd like us, you notice it.
Yes.
If you're not, you're just like, oh, this is so immersive.
Yes, yeah, you feel it. You really that street in particular, especially where side characters get shot from trying to steal from you and that sort of thing. That set, it was just amazing. I'm thinking of comparisons to like the small town in the first Thor movie, which felt like a Hollywood set.
Yes, it feels very like these are facades. These aren't buildings.
That was half a step above Blazing Saddles, for crying out loud. Except they made fun of it and then tear them down. This really, really, really felt lived in, real. The characters are very well developed. Probably not a surprise at this point based on this conversation, but yes, suddenly vampires turn up. And it's approximately, I think it's at the 45-minute mark where you go, oh yeah, there's vampires in this movie. And then pretty much at the 1 hour mark, somebody says, damn, vampires, or words to that effect. So from that point on, it's a go, 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 we're trapped in here. How do we get out? Survival horror movie with, I would describe it as high-level gore. I wouldn't describe it as impactful as someone who watches a lot of horror films.
No, it's not. I would say that's right. It's high level. It's not grotesque or over the top or cartoonish.
You have scenes like intense body horror. You might see only 2 people die in a movie, but it's higher impact because of the horrible things you're doing to the human body. That's not this. This has a high body count, lots of blood. But I didn't feel the horror doing much for me, which you could take as a negative. But on the other hand, the movie's doing so many other things.
I don't think it's not a horror movie.
No, it's. Actually, I don't know what to call it. That's not the point.
No, that's it. It's a genre movie for sure, but it's not trying to be scary. And it's dressed up as a horror movie because you've got like a supernatural element, but and it's like classic horror. It's a morality play,
and it's a musical. It is actually a musical, not hard musical.
No,
not La La Land or something.
No,
it's to me it was probably closer to like. The Joker Part 2, which is a very different film. But people kept calling that a musical more to like, oh, what the hell, look at this sort of thing. It was still music light though. And it just stops for these musical interludes and they either inform characters or drive the plot forward. And that's kind of what it's doing here. But the music here is very good. I looked up the sound. I wanted to buy the soundtrack. I was Googling it, and unfortunately, I like physical media, and these things were like
they'd be going
$80 or something. Even for a CD. So, boo. But it's got a real mix. It does finish with some more modern pop stuff, but it's also got that very 30s blues sound, which was really, really good. And sort of other mix mash. You've
Irish folk.
You have what's the Irish dancing called? River dancers.
What is that calling? Isn't that just Irish dancing?
Well, I guess Irish. It has Irish dancing. You've got the fiddles and the Irish dancing. You've got African American vampires with Irish vampires doing a intense, large scale musical scene. I did not predict that even when the vampire thing was revealed. I loved that it went there, and I'm just going, where is this movie going to go? Having said that, we should just go back a little bit to that scene. This scene, I might actually get you to describe it if you like, but I would describe this scene as up there as one of the best scenes I've seen. This would be in my top 3 of the last decade for sure.
I'd agree.
I put it up there with things like the best parts from Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, from the best parts of Dune Part 2 when they're experimenting with the infrared and all this sort of stuff. Really, really great cinematography. But this was doing something different. This wasn't just about the cinematography. Would you like to take us through that scene?
Sure. So I would say the Smokestack twins are our main characters, but they're not our protagonist. Our protagonist is their cousin, I believe, younger cousin, whose name I'm forgetting. I'm not sure. I might have that wrong, but anyway, it's not particularly important. But he is this incredibly gifted blues singer and guitarist. This sequence that we're describing, or I'm attempting to describe, is his performance at this Juke Club.
I'll mention his name was Semi, but he was also called the Preacher Boy because his father was.
So maybe the actor's name is.
Miles Caden.
Miles. I was starts with an M&M to an S. That's sight words.
There you
go. And he's phenomenal in this. Like for a first performance in a film, he's got a very deep baritone that he sings in. And this performance, it starts off as just like a blues performance. Very, very good one, but he's slapping his guitar, and in a big theater, the low end on this sound is phenomenal. And it starts here, people are stomping, and you can feel the wooden floorboards beneath you where you sit. And the song is about how he's been lying to his father. His father, who is a reverend or a minister, doesn't want him to play music because music is the devil's music. And so that's how he's going to save his soul, is by being like chaste and observant of the word. Sorry, I rolled my eyes, and that's not captured on the microphone. Yeah, so his song is about how he's been lying to his father and he's being dishonest, but the way he practices his faith is through singing. And that's very relevant because this scene is so dense, and it's not just dense in terms of the movie, it's dense in terms of like human culture. It is trying to capture something that is so quintessentially human and social through not words, through images and through music, which is so ambitious and so bold. So the camera originally is like at about hip level through the performance, and then it starts ascending in a spiral through the juke joint. And as it ascends, people start filtering into the crowd who don't belong. There's a bit of an anachronism going on where I think the first person you see is an African, like
So you're going back in time, effectively.
Yeah, and initially going back in time to like an African drummer or a dancer, I think. And then, which is like, that's the obvious comparison because of the heritage of the people we're observing. Then we start getting people from other cultures, and we get like Asian dancers coming in. And then it starts going forwards in time, and we get a DJ spinning on the turntables.
Electric guitar.
An electric guitar, like a Van Halen Flying V guitar. And it's the point of the scene is that this is how people express their soul through all of time. That musical expression is how humans express soul. Like very literally, this is the soul of humanity. And that's
culture,
the point.
Of course.
Yeah. But I think the larger point is that culture is the preservation of soul. And that's what this movie is about, is that like the people who are going out with the vampire and become part of this new group have given up their soul. They are better equipped to fight the oppressive forces of America, the white occupation of America. They're better equipped to fight them because they're violent but they've lost their soul. And that's the point of the movie, I think. And it's so perfectly demonstrated in that one scene,
which also culminates in the building figuratively burning down, because we see it cuts and the building's still there, but the point is the vampires are outside and can see them because they can hear his singing sort of resonates with them. And I love the idea that this is the first time I've seen music intertwined with vampires like this. They're drawn there because of his singing. We want you part of our clan, I guess. If that's
because
the right
he
word.
has got this power to connect. Like the main vampire, who is incredible in this, so charismatic and so charming, and he is a very persuasive vampire. I've never felt more like, I would absolutely be a vampire. The second this guy knocked on the door and be like, "Oi, do you want to join us?" I'd be like, "Yes, please."
Except when the dance looked pretty horrible and violent.
I'd be sitting that one out. I don't dance. I'm not doing that one. But the biting people, I'll do that.
All right.
All right. If I must, I'll partake. I think it's so important that he's Irish. I don't think he represents the Irish. He just represents the Irish perspective. And he has experienced subjugation by an occupying power. And he is kind of like, his advice to these people is like, you're not going to win. You can't win. But if you join us, we'll have our own thing going on.
And they all know, because at first I was like, he just turned these other two white people who are clan members and they could all sing the same and all the rest of it. That's kind of weird, but it quickly explains the idea that once you're bitten by this fella, you're all connected.
So a bit of a hive mind.
That's a good way of putting it. Hence why they're all dancing together and doing this equally interesting, not quite as spectacular, but still really interesting, like we said, with the Irish dancing and, they're all with the gaping mouths and blood and everything.
The blood just, it's so... and it's under the moonlight. It's very beautiful. The use of red and blue in this movie is so good.
There's so much going on that I think honing in on a couple of the key things. So there's some technical craft there. But the idea of, we were drawn here because of you, Sammy, your voice, your soul. That's never been done as far as I know with vampires. And I thought that was a really interesting mix.
And it pairs well with like that very, it's a element of vampire mythos that gets lost because it's inconvenient for tension. That idea that they need to be invited in.
I loved that. That was done so well.
And it lends itself so well to the story this movie's trying to tell, where like the vampires can't take your soul. You need to give it to them.
Yeah. So why don't you come in? You've been coming in and out all day.
Yeah.
I could come in if I want. Well, why don't you?
Yeah. And it creates such good tension.
We should mention now that the tension, there's one thing that I liked about the introduction is that the first couple of characters that get effectively killed, turn into vampires, are some of our main characters.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yep.
Horror films that, like the disposable 80s slasher films, which I love, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But they'll introduce a character so that they can be killed in that scene because they go, it's been 5 minutes and we haven't seen someone killed.
Yeah.
And in the case of many of the Friday the 13th, we haven't seen bare breasts for a little while.
Let's do both.
We'll introduce a character to help with...
She can be having a swim.
Yes.
And then,
and
because
also
now's the
get
time.
decapitated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's midnight. Time for a swim.
Spot on.
Yeah.
So the fact that they go after... So, oh, you're not messing around. You took out two of the main characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that at least one of those two would have stayed a bit longer. Turns out they kind of do anyway. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
The post-credit scene was amazing. We better get to that too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we will talk about that.
We will talk about that. So the idea that they're stuck at this doorway, that despite the fact that it turns into a bloodbath and several of the characters are now ostensibly dead, I guess, at least 5 minutes, I want to say more, is just them at a doorway.
Yeah.
Going, what's going on? Should we let you in? And then being tempted, once they know what's going on, tempted to walk out.
Yeah.
Putting someone out of the house, the building by mistake.
Yeah.
And so the poor fella is, oh no, let me back in. What is this?
He was just sick.
Yeah, he was just sick.
Just drunk.
Yeah. And then a quick reference to that lovely scene, the Thing reference.
That's so good.
Yeah, and he has cited John Carpenter as a bit of a fan too. So
it is a perfect homage in that, like,
take garlic, stand in a circle. Whoever reacts is the vampire. And the Thing, of course, it was test the blood because the blood has its own intelligence and will defend itself.
It will want to defend itself. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a nice little touch. So the horror stuff I thought was handled quite well. As a horror fan, when it turned into the bloodbath at the end, I did feel kind of bored because I kind of went, well, just get on with it now. Because it was so character driven.
Yeah.
You could have had that scene play out in montage in 10 seconds and it would have had the same effect. So I felt it went on too long.
Yeah.
If people pay for blood, you got to deliver it. But I don't think people were turning up for that reason in this film. So it felt like, just get on with it kind of thing, which is only a moderate criticism.
Yeah.
But it does, I sort of go, you could have trimmed a few minutes out of this film, which, given the craft, like the execution of the action was excellent.
Yeah.
But narratively, it's irrelevant. Just get on with it.
Yeah, I think there is a bit of sleight of hand going on there that once you... After seeing the movie, you're like, it's kind of limited in what it can show because it's holding something back for a later reveal. And that, in the moment, I was kind of like, oh, this feels a little bit unsatisfying. And then afterwards, you're like, yeah, I know why now, because there's an unresolved thread there that I was holding on to subconsciously.
Yes.
And it just got ignored. And so there's no real... Yeah, the main vampire becomes a very grotesque thing in the sunlight, and he gets the part of the guitar embedded in his skull, which is a beautiful way to kill a vampire. And so all of that is very satisfying.
I disagree.
Really?
I disagree.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay, go.
Gloves off. Here we go.
Yeah, bring it.
What I wanted there, I think, on reflection. So you talk about problems, but can we fix it? I think you could have fixed this one potentially. Music being part of the solution to these vampires would have been a beautiful thematic end.
Yeah.
In the end, he just hits him in the head with his guitar.
Yeah, give him a bonk on the head.
And then one of the brothers comes out and stabs the vampire with a stake. You go, no, that's just a traditional killing.
Yeah.
What would have been great instead was maybe he plays the music and distracts them until the sun comes up. That's not as exciting.
No.
But I defeated you with music. My soul, my music defeated you.
I could see that. If yeah, I don't know how you do, but my reaction upon hearing that is like, yeah, you could play like an Irish to just transfix our main guy.
Yeah, I don't know the music well enough to say what track you play, but I think that's what it needed. Because at the end of the day, I know, I get it. You're using your guitar that you love so much to hit him.
Yeah.
But that also could have just been any old stick, because ultimately it was someone who just stabbed him in the heart.
Stabbed him through the heart with the neck of the guitar, and that
would have helped.
That does both.
That would have helped.
Still got the musical symbolism.
That would have been a step in the right direction. But actually playing some music at that point, and then maybe stabbing him with the guitar or something like that. But just a bit of a tweak, because it felt like it just reverted to stab, sunlight, done. Like every other movie.
That's how we have always defeated the vampires in
Correct.
all of our
and
stories.
It looked spectacular.
It was beautiful. It's a beautiful, and it is such a relief for the eyes after
all that darkness,
and all that orange, to see like yellow light on the screen. It's very nice.
Now, a very Tarantino, shall we say, epilogue is one of the last remaining characters mowing down all the clan. The KKK turns up.
I think it's Smoke.
I think one of the brothers.
Yeah.
I got the names mixed up. Yeah, it could be Smoke. So he hangs around, guns them down. Wildly unnecessary narratively, very satisfying to watch. Clan members.
So cathartic.
Very cathartic, and that's very Tarantino.
And
that's burning the cinema down at the end of Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah,
it's Django Unchained.
Yeah, it's revenge. Exploding the house at the end of Django. Yeah.
It's gratuitous and it's delightful.
But that's it, and it's the flamethrower shot in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right. Yes.
That is very Tarantino. That you can't just have the good guys win. You need to have the good guys it needs to be definitive. They need to be you can't just win by a bit. You need to dance over the line.
And narratively, because the clan were in the background and it wasn't really about them, that they were there driving some of the idea that you need us, vampires, to fight them, but they weren't very present as a threat. So you didn't need it.
I think
no, go on.
I think the clan is the threat. The vampires are presenting a bargain to the Smokestack twins that they don't know who the Smokestack twins are, so it's not a direct bargain, but it's like the clan are going to kill you in the morning because he's read the mind of the clanmen.
I know because I just turned two of them.
I've read his mind. The clan are going to come and kill you in the morning.
Yeah. They sold you this place. It's a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, they are coming back.
Slaughterhouse.
They are coming back, and they are going to kill you, and they are going to take the place back.
Yeah.
You can't win, but we will help you if you join us. We will help you. And so I think the clan is the larger threat, and so they do need to be resolved in the movie. And I think Smoke using his Gatling gun to kill them all is him saying like, no, I can do this. We can do this ourselves.
Yes, yeah.
And I think it's very fitting that it's a weapon that he got from serving in the war.
Yes,
and so there's an element like we can do this because we have a place here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, good point. You've helped me reframe that a little bit. I missed a couple of those subtle things too. And yeah, again, it could have been done in a much simpler way, but this was a very, very satisfying.
It's so good.
It was very, very well put together too. And I've got to say, seeing him able to finally hold his child.
Yeah, that's an incredible way to end that character's arc.
That got me quite emotional.
Yeah.
As a father of a young child too. That was, I didn't expect to be emotionally moved by this movie. And I hate when movies become literal, like go to heaven, I can see my family dressed in white. And I still think that's kind of stupid, but the pathos cut through me here. I thought it was very well done, and it was set up well. The fact that his child died earlier.
I think the difference is if you show a person going into heaven, that feels cheesy. But if you show a person seeing what heaven is like, that feels impactful.
If the characters have been well put together, well established, and so on.
And it's not necessarily that he's going to heaven. It's like he is seeing what's awaiting him because he didn't sell his soul. He didn't give up his soul. So he gets that now, whereas his twin brother will never get that.
Yeah, I feel that was earned. And yes, bringing on the brother. So we should probably drive towards the ending here.
Yeah. That is why, sorry, speaking of the ending, the epilogue, that is my one thing where I'm like, I don't know what I'd do different, but I didn't like that.
Epilogue or post-credit scene? Because
the post-credit scene.
Yeah, I consider the shooting down the clan.
Okay, the shooting down's the epilogue. I love that, and I think
no debate. Wonderful.
That last shot with he and his baby girl, I think it was, that should probably be, if not the last shot, then like that's where we end the movie. I like that they then. There is a further development of Sammy, who becomes this legendary blues guitarist.
He had to make a choice. It returns to him. His father is saying, put down the guitar. What's left of it?
Yeah.
It's still there symbolically, which is great.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it have been great if that was the bit that had vampire blood on it?
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Someone.
Yeah.
Anyway, and will he make a choice? And we just cut ahead and see that the scars he received from that night have become his...
Yeah, it's his signature. It's part of his signature. It's his iconic silhouette. It's apparently used in his marketing as a guitarist. He's got this like these fingernail scars.
Yeah, so his older Sammy is played by an actual blues legend, not an actual actor, which is a little apparent. But
but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful performance.
It is, yeah, it's still very, very good.
Yeah.
And I really, when they cut to him 70 years later or whatever it was, 60 years later, I think, I sort of thought, that seems unnecessary. But then when it kind of eased into this final scene, I went, oh, I see why you did that.
Yeah.
And it's unnecessary, I think, but I don't know, I kind of loved it. It worked.
I like parts of it.
What didn't work for you?
I feel like when Stack and the female character Haley, her last name Steinfeld. I can't remember whether it's not Seinfeld.
Thank goodness. Haley Steinfeld. As Mary.
Yeah. I feel like they are dressed up like caricatures when they enter that scene. Like, because it's set in the 90s, he's wearing a big Cosby sweater and he's got like the ring with his name on it. And she's dressed
very, very 90s hip hop.
Very 90s hip hop, which, I mean, in terms of how realistic that is for eternal beings who have had like a lifetime to gather wealth, like they probably would be very rich and could afford to live well. But in terms of breaking mood, it feels like, oh, that's a little bit too.
So you thought a more moderate dress,
maybe
like B90s, but not so caricature.
It just makes me think there must be a point to it that I don't get, because he's such a deliberate filmmaker, and I think it may be a commentary on culture. Like these people have sold their soul, and so now they're dressing blues rather than living blues.
Right, I see, and they're absorbing. So this is the thing at the moment. We'll just do this.
Yeah,
right.
It's all artifice.
Yeah, because certainly when I saw the bling on him, and I kind of it represents wealth. Okay, yeah. I understood that.
And so maybe that's it. And I'm kind of like, I can see that, but it's a little bit ambiguous, and I'm like, I would either like that to be developed more or not included at all.
Right.
Because it feels like it's like when someone asks a provocative question that could be interpreted in a very negative way. Like if you ask, why are all that one type of person wealthy? And it's like, I know what you're doing there. You're being a little bit cheeky about, asking, not asking a question that you and I'm kind of like, you could read that very uncharitably, which I don't think Ryan Coogler's doing at all.
Knowing him seems unlikely.
No,
so,
he seems
I see what you mean. So what was his point? Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. As far as the interaction between them, though, the idea that the reveal that the character's still alive and we've left, because as soon as they walked in, I was like, oh, they finally come back for him.
Yeah.
But the idea that they leave is, friends is not the right word. But.
Yeah, he promised his brother that he would leave Sammy alone. And Sammy then says, up until the sunset, that was the best day of my life. Because he was hanging out with his older cousins and they were throwing a party and he was special to them. He had a gift that he was going to share with the world, and they were praising him, and that's beautiful. Yeah, like there's a lot of that kind of just sentiment in the last few scenes of the movie that is just so well earned, because there are not a lot of characters in this movie, but they are so well drawn.
Yes,
that when they express like lifelong catharsis or regret or anything like that, it hits hard.
Yeah, that's true. It does, generally speaking, feel quite earned.
Yeah.
And apart from, I suppose there's a couple of, like I said, missteps, I suppose, like the killing the main vampire, which, well, that was actually a real missed opportunity for me. The film takes a real hit there, where it doesn't tie the theme into that final action.
Yeah, it's not the perfect resolution of theme and plot.
Yeah. But having said that, when one or two things stand out, it kind of shows how much the rest of it works.
Yeah.
So if I'm just conscious of time, so maybe final thoughts if you don't mind. Sure. So I would describe it as maybe just a step away from being a genuine masterpiece. So for me, it is a very good film. It might turn out to be my favorite film of the year. So certainly I don't want it to sound like faint praise, but I feel it just doesn't quite, but gee, it does so well. And a great quote from somebody else, a chap by the name of Jay Bowman from Red Letter Media, who said on his review that I loved the film and then it became a vampire movie and then I liked the film.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that sums up my feeling as well, that I would love to see an alternative version of this where the supernatural element's not there, because these characters were so good. The thing is, though, that film's already been made 100 times.
Yeah.
So, of course, you do something different. Quick mention of the the Outcast movie, if you know the Outcast, Andre 3000, and
Yeah,
there was a movie
Idlewild.
called Idlewild,
Yes.
which is that movie
Yeah.
without the vampires,
Yeah.
and also a musical and all the rest of it. So yeah, if they just did that, it's already been done. So I'm kind of defeating my own argument there. But my point is, that's how good the first 45 minutes was. The characterization was fantastic.
Yeah.
The world they created was amazing, and the vampire stuff, the horror stuff, doesn't live up to it. As good as it is, what supplements it almost enough for me to give it that masterpiece label is the music, that scene that we talked about, and the pathos at the end, the emotional payoff. And yeah, like I said, just a couple pieces. Like if the horror came in later and there was more characterization, maybe, but then I'm talking about restructuring the whole film, or type some of that thematic stuff at the end, then I think I'd give it even higher praise. But definitely a strong recommend from me.
Yeah, I want to call it a masterpiece.
Yeah, you sound more positive on it than me.
I think, like, even just thinking about it now,
You can call it a masterpiece. Go for it.
I cannot recall a movie I have seen in years upon years. I think maybe The Green Knight a couple of years ago I liked as much as this, and I got similarly excited about that movie as well, where I'm like, this movie has so many layers of interpretation. And even just now thinking about, like, I don't think you can do this movie without the vampire element, because you do need, it's a very anti-colonialist movie.
Yes.
It is. And then having vampires be the bad guys, vampires are they are European. They are generally used as a metaphor for the influence of Europe. And so that's such a perfect match. There's so many layers upon layers of depth for this. I'm like, if it's not perfect in execution, it's so close that, like, I will just round up. And yeah,
that's fair. That is totally fair. And by all means, I think you, by us sort of, I don't know, hitting it with a magnifying glass has probably raised it a little in estimation. I'll still keep it at that. I don't know what you want to call it, like an A rather than an A plus.
I'll give it an A plus.
There you go.
I'll give it an A plus, and
there you go.
Best in class.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like we could say more, but I think we best.
People should just watch the movie themselves, and then they can send you feedback.
Yeah.
Let you know. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're wrong. It is A plus. Fair enough. No, if this in time is considered a genuine masterpiece, I would be thrilled. I
would much rather this be the important movie of the year than Minecraft. Like, if we get to choose which movie has cultural impact, let it be this one.
If I hear one more person say Steve, I'm going to...
if I hear about Chicken Jockey one more time, I'm going to throw a kid up in the air. Hey.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Fair. So there's a juxtaposition to it. So Sinners, best movie since From Dusk Till Dawn.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Nothing has happened in the intervening.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
No. Skip 20 years.
Yeah, it's fine. Lovely, Nate. Thank you again for your time. Much appreciated.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.